Today, we have had a Q&A for New World, and I can't beat around the bush. There was not that much in it. In fact, that's the whole vibe that we're getting from New World right now. Some people are concerned about it, and some people are trying to see the bigger picture. So let's talk about what they spoke about, and then we'll talk about what they mean. So one of the main things that they're talking about here is the fact that they can't really reveal anything until June. If you're not familiar with the situation right now, basically Season 5 doesn't have that much in it. Season 4 didn't have that much in it. Nobody really knows what Season 6 is going to be, but we're not even going to hear about that until June, according to Katie on Discord the other day. And that means we're having basically a significant content drought. This is causing the play numbers to drop. It's causing sentiment within the community to be hot, and they sort of address that. There's only so much you can address when you can't say anything. They say they're going to start giving us little like teasers and Easter eggs and that kind of thing to sort of suggest what's coming. You know, maybe we'll get more hints about pets and the burr mount that's sort of like soft rumored, confirmed, but not really confirmed. You know, maybe we'll get those kind of hints. The reality is, and I'm sort of going to say what they can't, they're basically sacrificing the play numbers right now for the end of year content, which is the bigger picture that they're talking about in the video if you've seen it. And the end of year content is going to be console, and then probably a free massive patch, possibly equivalent to an expansion, maybe not. Because there's definitely not an expansion this year as per Katie again on Discord, but you know, there's probably something coming big, because otherwise what the hell are they doing? But let's talk about what they did actually mention, which is it doesn't sound like there's going to be an Outpost Rush map this year. It doesn't sound like they're working on a new Outpost Rush map, because what they're working on instead is a new PvP mode, and the cat is pretty much already out of the bag at this point. It really seems like we're going to get that free-for-all PvP area / island, whatever the hell you want to call it. We had the stuff that was on the PTR that sort of had this free-for-all moment. We've had a leak. There's been a couple of different things that suggest, you know, that's going to be the case. So that's what they're saying is going to be better than an Outpost Rush. I'm a little bit happy and a little bit sad about that. It would have been nice if in the expansion we would have just had another Outpost Rush map that could have been cycled between the two. And when I say an Outpost Rush map, I would actually prefer a different game mode, but you know, beggars can't be choosers at this point. So no Outpost Rush map, but something that they think is better, but they better be right. Another just straight up confirmation is that daggers are not being worked on. It doesn't sound like they have plans for daggers. At some point they were being worked on, I think, but they've changed their mind. And I think that's probably also for the best. I think daggers could very much lead to a toxic gameplay depending on how they were implemented. And I just said depending in such a strange way, but I'm not going to edit that out, so let's just leave it. But daggers could be very toxic. Obviously, you could just design it in a way that isn't toxic, but the idea of like light melee annihilating people or having a lot of escapes like smoke bombs or what have you could, you know, boost healers. It could be chaotic. It's probably better without until they come up with something that they're happy with. So fair enough. Next week on April 1st, which yes, I know it's a funny day, is that they are going to be doing a state of the game. However, it's not really a state of the game. It's more of a community state of the game. It's going to be the community manager apparently who's going to address some things, which, let's be honest, if it's a community manager, no disrespect to the community manager, they're not going to be starting to reveal new stuff, are they? It's not going to be announcements, I don't think. It's maybe going to be like, what can they do in the community to make people feel better? Maybe like community-led events. Like one thing that they could do is, obviously we're not getting like actual in-game content, but they could give us community content. Like we've not had that really before, have we? So, you know, maybe we could get something like that. Maybe they'll talk about it. Maybe they'll ask for feedback and you could give feedback of that kind of ilk if you so choose. My daughter's having a bath and I'm not going to retake it just because you could hear her in the background. There were a couple of like hints that they didn't fully address. For example, the other Scott, which I feel bad calling him that, but the non-Scott Lane Scott, he was talking about how Arena isn't in a good spot, but then didn't really speak about what they were doing, apart from the fact that Katie confirmed that arenas are going to be cross-world this year. So maybe Season 6, although I sort of feel like it might be Season 7 or beyond. One thing that Katie did say is, whilst on Discord, she stated that there wouldn't be an expansion this year, they did say that at some point there probably will be expansions. And I think you can take that to mean it'll probably be the year after in 2025. They spoke about a couple of systems that that they liked and some that they didn't. And one of the ones that they sort of kept mentioning that they thought was an underbaked system was the spore pods in the Elysian Wilds. And if I'm honest, they are completely right. That system was both confusing and unrewarding. It's something like you have to get in these spore pods to have a chance of getting this extra loot table, but the loot in the loot table is pretty pointless. And to be fair, I'm happy that the loot in those loot tables were pointless because the loot was good. It's a terrible system anyway. Then you have all the vial potions and stuff like that. It's like one of those things where it sounds like a nice idea, but they didn't commit to the development of it, and they either should have shelved it or, committing more resources to develop it. Personally, it was obviously pretty boring and pretty bad. One thing that Scott said, which sort of blew my mind a little bit, is that he said that he sort of liked the changes to the gear score and the progression that came in the Elysian Wilds. And you know what? Like, when I heard it, I was like, what? The progression right now is one of the worst things about the game. How could they say that? And when you think about it, I actually sort of agree. I agree with removing expertise. I agree with removing like Ward and Bane. And the problem, which I've said a couple of times at this point, is that they never really replaced it with anything, which has left the progression feeling deeply underwhelming because it's very easy to achieve and there's not really much reason to do any of the content. Now, I think some of that's fundamental to the game in the type of game that we have with no classes, and they sort of want it to be casual friendly, etc. But it just felt a little bit awkward to me to highlight progression when progression is one of the things I think is causing the issues we have right now. Obviously, a lack of content is a big part of it. If you don't make content in a game, almost doesn't matter what you do. But I think the lack of progression is relevant. And I don't just mean vertical progression. I'm not going to explain vertical and horizontal progression here, but some games can do horizontal, some games can do vertical. New World is not really doing either very well. It's just that true. There's a couple of things that I would like to see them address a little bit quicker or sooner than they're probably planning on addressing it. Oh, one thing they did say is that they're trying to, and they hope that they're going to get rid of the title notification spam, which, to be fair, is such an annoying bug, so let's hope that that just goes away. Scott said he doesn't like the perfect salvage thing, which I did sort of have a chuckle about, because the perfect salvage thing is not really relevant when you can just mass salvage everything. You don't really see it anymore, so that is, whilst it's still prevalent, it still exists, it's not really that relevant anymore. But some things that are just peeving me right now is, I mentioned the arena rewards. Yeah, just revert them. That reversion should happen. I don't even know if that's a word. They should revert that in season 5, like as soon as possible. If you didn't know, season 5, by the way, is coming April 2nd. That's confirmed. They confirmed it in the video. It was already previously confirmed. They also again mentioned the merges, which is fine, but they should revert the arena changes as soon as possible. What they did, if you don't know, is that they nerfed the arena while simultaneously buffing Outpost Rush, and now nobody really does the arena. It might be a bit better with the merges because there's more people on the server, but still, I don't think the nerf to the rewards really made any sense. There's not really much else that they directly spoke about. It's quite clear at this point that the current player base is being sacrificed for the greater good of the game. And they pretty much said that. Scott pretty much said that in the short term, it's going to suck, but in the long term, they think it's better for the health of the game. They're probably right. If all of the things that they can get changed and, are positive changes, and they come in when console happens, and, we have a free sort of brimstone level kind of patch, then the game could be really good at the end of this year again. However, the sentiment for the game is becoming so anti and angry that it's going to be a hard climb to get back to where they were. However, I think if the content's good, people still want New World to be good, so it could still be good. There was one telling question about whether or not the game will survive for a long time. I know myself and Baggins sort of did similar videos with that kind of sentiment. I mean, Baggins had a fantastic thumbnail with it being on a gravestone, but whatever. Anyway, back to the point. And they sort of said they don't want that to happen. They're trying everything they can to stop that happening. The reality is, if the player numbers really do tank and nobody goes back, then that could be on the cards in the future. However, we're nowhere near that, so don't really go in with that kind of mentality. I don't think it's necessarily helpful or true. We're going to have a fantastic end of year, and then if the game's successful on console and people come back to PC, then, the game's completely fine. Right now, they have to take the pain to get the game ready for console. The combat rework is actually massive, and there's probably some other technical changes happening in the background that will set the ground, or lay the ground for the future. For now though, it sucks, and New World is feeling pretty underwhelming. Warloggers aren't happy because there's less servers, so there's less wars. People who want wars but can't get them won't be happy. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and there's no good answer because the reality is the play numbers are down and you can't magic more people, and those people in June, they're going to get told to come back in October, as we've all probably seen the Ball Sense video. For now, I'm off. Bye. I don't have my bloody Patreon thing because I'm on the wrong scene in OBS. I do apologise. But thanks to my Patreons. If you want to help me, that's the best way. Other than that, have a most beautiful day. Come and talk to me on Twitch. There'll be a link somewhere, I'm sure. For now, like and subscribe. Goodbye.